So you guys were really vocal about my last video on how I just did like one big take and didn't do any editing and thought that was okay or preferred really. And so I'll do the same thing here. I'll try that again, you know? I thought it was pretty good, pretty fun. Gives me a little challenge of speaking better but also a lot less time spending editing. So I'll try it again for this video and you know, maybe just future videos for when I do these laid back commentaries, but I got some encore gameplay for you guys. I like this map a lot. I think it's kind of underrated, and I did pretty well with the SWAT. It was a fun gun to use and come back to. And today I want to be talking about um, the different sides of Call of Duty. So you got like zombies, you got multiplayer. Now we have like Warzone. You know, in like the Modern Warfare games, we have Spec Ops, and then we got campaign for just about every COD besides Black Ops 4. And I've always wondered, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys have too, should Call of Duty ever like split up and like separate its modes between different games? Because I feel like, especially for zombie players like myself, we've always wanted like our own zombies Call of Duty game that like doesn't have to be integrated with multiplayer at all or the campaign in any way. And sometimes it's done really well. Like for Black Ops 1, I think that's the kind of golden standard of three different modes being intertwined together because multiplayer grabs a lot of inspiration from the campaign. The campaign sort of intertwines with zombies here and there and like very small obscure parts. Um, but I feel like that's where it does like the best job for that blend. But nowadays it's like really hard for Activision to get their shit together and not spread their employees so thin because you got like whole teams that are doing just different modes for one single game rather than like one team working on one game. You know what I mean? Like, for instance, you got games like Ghost of Tsushima. I love Sucker Punch. I'm a big fan of that studio because they make such great games, and they don't pump them out every year. They wait quite a while. You know, usually like 5 to 7 years to put out a very high quality game, and that's probably like one big team working on one game rather than Call of Duty where you got multiple big teams trying to work together and like communicate together, and the more modes and whatnot you make, the more you're gonna have to spend to get these people to work together and cohesively make a game that makes sense. And I feel like it's just getting harder and harder throughout Call of Duty, especially with like Black Ops 6. It's just kind of a train wreck for many different reasons, but I feel like it doesn't make sense the way it's been now. I feel like they're just a little too intertwined. You know, I feel like it's fine to have like references between the modes, but when you get a little too, you know, fundamentally intertwined, it sucks. It doesn't work very well. So, for instance, like an example I can think of right now off the top of my head is in Black Ops 4, they had like a manual healing system. So, you know, in Call of Duty, usually you just heal by waiting. But in that game, you have to manually press a button to heal. And it's a little weird in multiplayer, and there's a lot of instances where you find yourself in a gunfight, and once you're done with that gunfight, you try to heal, and then another guy comes, and you're in another gunfight immediately, and then say you win that one, and now you gotta wait even longer to heal for like your little stim shot to come up, and it's it's just awkward timing because I'll find myself dying in those situations where I feel like I could have just ran away in other Call of Duties and healed and come back like full health instead of having to wait for myself to actually manually heal. And the reason they did that in multiplayer is because they had blackout. In a blackout, you have to manually heal. You know, even like your med packs or your I don't remember med kits or whatever, and you use those to manually heal yourself. So they kind of were like, let's put together those two fundamental concepts from Blackout and multiplayer. Now, they didn't do that in zombies. That would be insane if they did, but that's just like one example where it's like that kind of doesn't work super well, and it's just been a trend. And they always try to blend the campaign, Warzone, and like multiplayer together, and then zombies sometimes just does its own thing. Other times it's like, you got armor now in like Black Ops 6. I've seen, we had that I think as well in, what was it, Cold War. So they like to implement things together, and I feel like I just want to see it happen just one time. I want to see Call of Duty come out with a just full zombies mode by itself, maybe a campaign by itself. I mean, I feel like campaign and multiplayer almost always go together, because usually the multiplayer maps are from campaign. So I feel like that would work just fine. But then you got like modes like Spec Ops. Warzone is kind of its own thing, like it's its own application, but they treat it like it's part of the game. It's like you should just make Warzone its entire own application. Like it shouldn't be related in any way. I feel like it should just have its own story, its own functionality, its own fundamentals of what it is. Because it was pretty separated when it first came out from like Modern Warfare 2019, when that game came out, and when Warzone was like fresh. It was so different and new, and it was pretty separated from the actual game, besides maybe the map, I guess, because it was in Verdansk, and I think it was just the Russian theme, which is fine. Like, themes can always be integrated with each other, intertwined with each other through these modes. I think that's always fine, except for maybe zombies sometimes, because zombies nowadays has drifted apart from being more mythical and magical to like military and like I guess a little more realistic, like zombie apocalypse, in modern day type deal, where I myself have not enjoyed that sort of narrative. It's made the story kind of boring in my eyes, and I'm like, I don't really care about the characters as much. They're not as goofy or as fun as like older characters, where it's like you're literally in like you're oh sorry, you're in like a really mythical place where, I mean, like, I'm thinking of like Origins, for example, where everything's just crazy. You got walls falling from the sky and crazy shit happening. I mean, they kind of do that similarly in Black Ops 6. I haven't kept up too much with like the story, but it just doesn't seem the same. It seems a little boring, and I think that's just because of the theme of having like military people in that sense. And it's really, honestly, if it was just up to like maybe a little more creativity in like the character development, or more wacky characters, I think I would like it a lot more. But I'm not really a big fan of those characters, especially some from like old Black Ops games, like Weaver, for example. It's like such a weird thing to have in zombies. But anyways, I digress. This was pretty much my spiel about these different modes, and I want to get your guys' opinion on what other modes you would like to see maybe separated from the main game, and how you would approach that. I think it would be interesting to see. It'd be beneficial in a way. Maybe like cheaper versions of the game too. Maybe like instead of a $70 game, it's like a $30 game. So you're not paying for the full package. You're just paying for the separated mode, for instance. So appreciate you guys watching this video, and I will see you all next time. Bye.